The shavings curled off the walnut board like apple peels, falling onto the workbench in my Lancaster County shop. I held a piece of tool steel no bigger than a playing card, and in 12 minutes I had taken a rough sawn board to a finish so smooth it reflected the light from my kerosene lamp like glass. There was no dust in the air, there was no noise, there was no sandpaper. Most woodworkers spend $400 a year on sandpaper sheets, belts, and discs. They spend another $180 on polyurethane to hide the damage that sandpaper does to the wood. The wood ends up cloudy, the grain is torn, and the surface absorbs moisture from the air, warping within 3 years. The wood is dead, suffocated under plastic, and the builder is broke. My name is Isaac Clapp. I am Amish. I build dining tables, hope chests, and kitchen cabinets on my farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I keep 11 hives, I farm 20 acres, and I have never bought a sheet of sandpaper in my life, not one, not ever. Every piece of furniture I have built in the last 35 years has been finished with a piece of steel and a handful of straw. The abrasive companies in your town have known about this for over 100 years. They know their product destroys the wood fiber, and they know exactly what we use instead. By the end of this, you will know exactly what to do this weekend for less than the cost of a cup of coffee to get a finish that lasts 200 years. Stay with me. Let me start with what most folks get wrong about wood. Most folks think sandpaper makes wood smooth. It does not. Sandpaper makes wood scratched. If you look at a piece of wood sanded with 220 grit paper under a microscope, it looks like a plowed field. The mineral particles tear across the wood fibers, ripping them loose. Those loose fibers are called raised grain, and they stand up like little broken straws. When you wipe a wet rag across that surface, those broken straws drink the water, swell up, and make the board feel rough again. You buy the 80 grit for rough shaping, the 120 grit for smoothing, and the 220 grit for the final scratch pattern that you mistakenly believe is a polish. The wood is wounded. Those torn fibers act like sponges, pulling humidity out of the air, bringing mold, rot, and warping right into the heart of the board. Then, to cover up the mess, folks smear polyurethane over the top like a thick coat of plastic paint. The wood cannot breathe. It suffocates. It does not make the wood smooth. It does not seal the wood. It does not protect the wood from the moisture in the air. We do not do this. The Amish do not do this. A cabinet scraper does not tear the wood. It shears it. It slices the fibers clean, exactly like a spoke shave or a hand plane, but on a microscopic level. The surface is compressed, closed, and sealed by the edge of the steel. The grain remains crisp, the pores are pinched shut, and the wood resists water naturally. You do not need plastic to protect it. The wood protects itself when it is cut properly. I am not exaggerating when I say a scraped piece of cherry will shed water for 80 years without a single drop of synthetic finish. The tool we use is called a cabinet scraper or a card scraper. It is a flat piece of high-carbon tool steel, about the size of an index card, and it costs about $14. The steel is hardened to a specific Rockwell hardness, usually around 45 to 50, so it holds a sharp edge under pressure. Here is how the mechanism works. You do not sharpen a scraper like a knife. You burnish it. You take a rod of hardened steel, press it against the edge of the scraper, and push it along the steel to roll a tiny hook of metal over the edge. That microscopic hook is the cutting edge. When you push the scraper across the wood, that tiny hook enters the wood like a wedge and shears off a shaving that is 0.001 inches thick. It is a precise surgical cut. Let me explain the 3 ways this differs from sanding. First, sanding tears the fibers, leaving them frayed and open to moisture. Scraping slices the fibers, leaving them cut clean and closed tight. Second, sanding leaves mineral dust embedded in the pores of the wood, which turns gray and dulls the natural color. Scraping leaves nothing behind but pure, clean wood, and the natural oils and colors pop out immediately. Third, sanding creates a flat, matte surface that scatters light in all directions, making the beautiful grain look dead and lifeless. Scraping compresses the surface, creating a smooth, polished plane that reflects light in one direction, making the grain glow as if it is lit from within. The Forest Products Laboratory at the University of Wisconsin-Madison published a study in 1991 confirming exactly what we have known for 300 years. They found that scraped wood surfaces absorb 60% less moisture than sanded surfaces over a 30-day period. The researchers concluded that the mechanical shearing action seals the capillaries in the wood, preventing moisture intrusion. The Amish knew this. The old German joiners in the Palatinate knew this. It is not a secret among those who work with their hands, but the industry has hidden it from the English, which is what we call folks outside our community, and from everyone else who buys their furniture at a box store. Once the scraping is done, the wood is smooth, but it is not finished. To bring out the deep glow, we burnish it. We take a bundle of natural horsehair or wheat straw, wrap it tight, and rub it vigorously against the wood. The friction polishes the surface, compressing the fibers even tighter and bringing the natural oils to the top. It produces a finish that feels like warm silk. You do not need a power sander. You do not need a shop vacuum. You do not need a respirator to protect your lungs from clouds of toxic microdust. It costs nothing. It is entirely natural. You need 3 things: a piece of tool steel, a burnisher, and a handful of natural fiber. First, the scraper. Buy a Crown Tools card scraper for $14 online. It is made of Swedish tool steel, and it is the exact same tool my grandfather used. Do not buy the cheap ones at the hardware store. They are too soft and will not hold. A hook. You want the hard steel. Second, the burnisher. You need a rod of hardened steel to roll the edge. A Crown Tools burnisher costs $18. If you are careful, use the shank of a high-speed steel drill bit, but a dedicated burnisher is better. Third, the natural fiber. Use a bundle of horsehair, which you get from any local farrier or horse farm for nothing. I get mine from a neighbor who trims horses' manes. If you cannot find horsehair, take a handful of wheat straw from a farmer's field after the harvest. It works the same way. Now here is the step-by-step. Step 1. Flatten the scraper. You must file the edge of the scraper perfectly flat and square. Take a single-cut mill file, lay it flat on the edge, and take a few strokes until the edge is perfectly straight and the corners are sharp. This takes about 10 minutes of your time. Step 2. Polish the edge. Take an oil stone or a water stone and polish the flat sides of the scraper until the edge shines. Do this twice on each side, maybe 20 strokes per side. You are removing the burr left by the file and creating a polished surface. Step 3. Roll the hook. This is the trick. You hold the scraper in a vise, take your burnisher, and push it along the edge of the steel at a perfectly flat angle, pressing hard, about 10 times on each side. Then, tilt the burnisher about 5 degrees and push it along the edge again, 5 times on each side. This pushes a tiny lip of steel over the edge. That is your cutting hook. Look at it under a bright light and you see a faint line of light glinting off the hook. Step 4. Scrape the wood. You hold the scraper in both hands, bow it slightly with your thumbs in the center, and push it away from you along the grain of the wood. It produces a thin, wispy shaving, not dust. If it produces dust, your hook is dull or broken. Push the scraper across the board, overlapping your strokes until the entire surface has been sheared. You feel the wood become slick under the tool. Step 5. Burnish the wood. Take your bundle of horsehair or straw, grip it tight so the ends are stiff, and rub it hard against the wood, back and forth along the grain. You are friction polishing the surface. You feel the wood heat up slightly under your hand. Keep rubbing for about 5 minutes per square foot. The wood begins to glow. The grain darkens, the rays shine, and the surface feels like polished stone. Step 6. Oil the wood. You do not need polyurethane. Take a rag, dip it in raw linseed oil or beeswax melted in turpentine, and wipe it on. The oil sinks into the clean, open pores of the scraped wood. Because the pores are not clogged with sanding dust, the oil penetrates deeply. Wipe off the excess, let it dry for 24 hours. And you are done. The finish is waterproof, it is beautiful, and it lasts longer than you live. I will be honest with you. The first time you try to roll a hook on a scraper, it feels impossible. You break the hook, you make dust instead of shavings, and you want to throw the tool across the room. Spend 30 minutes practicing on a piece of scrap pine, and you learn the angle, you learn the pressure, and you never pick up a sheet of sandpaper again. Let us look at the cost. A box of premium sandpaper sheets, belts, and discs for a power sander costs about $45 at the hardware store. Build a few pieces of furniture a year, and you burn through 8 or 10 boxes. That is $400 a year on disposable paper that tears, clogs, and goes in the trash. Over 10 years, you spend $4,000 on sandpaper. The Amish way costs $14 for the scraper and $18 for the burnisher. That is $32 total. The horsehair is free. The oil is $9 for a pint of linseed. You spend $41 one time and you use the same tools for the rest of your life. My grandfather used the same card scraper for 60 years. That is $0.68 a year. For a better finish, you save $3,960 over 10 years, and your furniture does not look like it was dipped in plastic. So why does nobody tell you this? The abrasive industry buried it in 1930. Before 1930, every cabinet shop in America used scrapers. Sandpaper existed, but it was used only for rough work, like shaping horse collars or roughing out plaster. In 1930, the 3 Meters Company figured out how to mass-produce waterproof sandpaper with aluminum oxide. Grit. They launched a massive marketing campaign aimed at amateur woodworkers, telling them that hand scraping was too difficult, too slow, and that sandpaper was the modern, scientific way to finish wood. They sold convenience. They sold the lie that you needed a power sander and a pile of paper to get a smooth surface. And then in the 1950s, they partnered with the polyurethane companies to sell you the plastic coating. There is a whole industry built on selling you the cure for a sickness that the same industry installed. In your house in the first place, they sell you the sandpaper that tears the grain and ruins the wood, and then they sell you the polyurethane to cover up the damage. They make you buy 2 products to fix a problem that their first product created. It is a brilliant business model, but it is a lie. Everything I have covered across this channel, the stove, the wall, the water, this is in one place now. I put it together with exact materials, exact quantities, and exact steps for a home you already own. It is called 93 Traditional Lancaster County Methods to Cut Your Household Expenses by $4,000 a year. Link in the description. But stay here, because what comes next is the part nobody is talking about. My grandfather built the table I eat at every morning. He built it in 1952 before the industry had completely swallowed the trade. He did not own a single sheet of sandpaper. He scraped every board with a tool his father had given him, and he burnished the top with a bundle of horsehair from his own buggy horse. Every Saturday morning he sat at that table with his coffee and his scraper, and he touched up a spot that had gotten wet or scratched. He called it feeding the wood. He said the wood was alive, and it needed to be cared for, not smothered. When he passed, the table came to me. It is 72 years old. It has never been sanded. It has never been polyurethaned, and it is as smooth as the day he finished it. That is stewardship. The knowledge is dying. The big box stores have convinced folks that building is about buying the right disposable product, not about learning the right skill. We are filling our landfills with disposable sandpaper and our homes with plastic-coated furniture that cannot be repaired. The Amish way is about permanence. A man who can build a table for his family with a piece of steel and a handful of straw is a man who needs to ask no one's permission and pay no one's bill. He is a man who builds something his grandchildren will eat at 80 years from now. That is the bigger picture. We are losing the ability to care for the things we own. This weekend, here is what I want you to do. Go to the hardware store, buy 1 card scraper and 1 burnisher. It costs you $32. Do not buy sandpaper. Take them home, find a piece of scrap wood, and practice rolling the hook. It takes you an hour. Once you make that first perfect shaving, you understand what I am talking about. Tell me in the comments below what kind of wood you are working with right now and what finish you usually use. Have you ever tried hand scraping, or did you not know it existed? I read every one of these, and I want to know what is on your workbench. Next time, I am going to show you how I heat my entire workshop for 11 cents a day, which involves a terracotta pot, a specific length of copper tubing, and a handful of walnut shells that you never guess. Stay sharp, stay patient, and remember the people who built this country with their hands. New things we are only just starting to remember.